Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode, our third episode, actually, of the Prog School Podcast with me, Gerald Dalebout, and Morgan Wick. How you doing, Morgan?
Oh, not too bad. What is today? April
I don't know.
3rd? Yeah, April 3rd.
It's April 3rd for us, but it's
probably a few months after that for you guys.
October 10th for you.
October 2023 if you...
Yeah. How is the apocalypse working out for you?
Is COVID
listeners?
gone yet in your world? We should just do that, make podcasts and release them 5 years later, and everything we say means nothing. Cause
yeah, it's like a time capsule. We are doing songs, like albums that
That's
are
true.
over 50 years old. So, whatever.
45 years old for this one, right? Or is it 46?
This one, yeah. I didn't even say. Today we're going to be talking about Wish You Were Here.
Yes.
Pink Floyd's 20 platinum album released in 1975.
So 46 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good math. Nice math.
I'm just thinking. Yeah. I can do math in my head. I'm so good.
Yeah. What before we talk about this album, I was going to see what music have you been listening to lately, Morgan?
There's always something. A band that I'm digging into the last couple weeks that I haven't really checked out before is a band called Frost. Frost with a asterisk after it. They kind of do, it's more prog rockish. I would highly recommend checking them out. Their first album, Million Town, is that the name of it? I'm probably
anyway. Adding to my Spotify right now.
Yeah, right there. It's super good. It's like kind of like gives me some of the transatlantic vibe, maybe a little heavier.
Okay.
Some long songs. It's technically a super group, although I'm not super familiar with any of the members' other projects. But
it's a super group of subpar musicians.
No, they're great. It's a super group of people from not so famous bands. So I guess technically, is that a super group? Do you have to be from like a big band?
They're like the Teen Titans of super groups. They're not quite Justice League, but they're still a super group kind of thing. Yeah. Me, I found this band on Spotify called Mother's Cake, and I think I sent it to you. I don't think it's your cup of tea.
I listened to it a little bit. I didn't dig into it too much. I liked what I heard.
Right. It's like a prog alt rock. It's kind of like it's like if Red Hot Chili Peppers and Incubus had like a lot of prog elements to it.
Yeah.
So because of that, I enjoy it because I like those bands as well as prog. And then I've also been listening to a band called 68. Okay. And 68 is not prog. It's very much like punk, I'd say, influenced by punk. Kind of sounds like Rage and punk. It's very intense. It's more about the message and the delivery than like the expert musicianship.
Mm-hmm.
But I like it. Oh, it says I have to upgrade.
Wait, what?
All right. Well, anyway,
we
had some
talking
Zoom
about?
issues. Zoom is trying to monetize us, make some money.
But we don't make any money. We don't make any money, so we're not going to pay them any money. Not
yet. Maybe by the time this comes out, we will.
Not enough to pay for Zoom.
Well, anyway, it's probably a good segue. But yeah, I've been listening to Mother's Cake and 68. They're great bands. You've been listening to Frost. But we're talking about Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here, which is, I don't know, man. I think it could quite possibly be my favorite Pink Floyd album, pound for pound. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite Pink Floyd album too. And not necessarily that I think it has the best Pink Floyd moments, but as a whole, I think it's the best.
Yeah, that's like there's some songs I like on other albums, maybe more so. But as an album, this feels very complete. And it's very heavy, and it has all of the elements of Pink Floyd that are on their other albums. I guess maybe that's my own perception.
Yeah.
Shine On You Crazy Diamond is kind of this jam piece. And then like Welcome to the Machine sounds very much like The Wall. Wish You Were Here is a very simple, like heartfelt song. And then like Have a Cigar has that very cynical edge. And so you just get a nice like kaleidoscope of Pink Floydness in this album for the length. I mean, it's like a 44-minute album, right? Yeah. So
and like we're not talking about Dark Side of the Moon, I think, because it's been so over talked. At least that's my opinion. And I love Dark Side of the Moon. I think it's great. But there's some stuff on Dark Side of the Moon that feels like there's a lot of experimentation, and some of it feels like it's not adding to the whole. Like it's not a ton of stuff, but there's a few spots where this just feels a little more kind of cohesive overall to me. And I think that makes sense. You're experimenting as an artist, and then after that you kind of learn how to refine some of those ideas, into something a little more compact, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the thing is Dark Side of the Moon is I think Pink Floyd's is it their it's got to be their highest selling album. Maybe
it's one of the highest album. It's one of the highest selling albums of all time.
Yeah, I know The Wall's up there, but so they're coming. This album is released right after that.
Yeah,
and like if you look at where the band's at mentally, they've made it big. And Pink Floyd, a lot of people, I don't just like lay people aren't aware that Pink Floyd was around for so long before Dark Side of the Moon. They have several albums beforehand, but so they're coming off this huge success, and they've like made it, and then they sort of feel this emptiness going into the recording of Wish You Were Here, where they're all not very motivated, and they're all very burned by the record industry. They've gone through a lot personally. They've lost their lead singer, Sid Barrett. And so they come into this album just with a lot of heaviness. And what's interesting about this album is that this is really the beginning of the end for Pink Floyd, even though they make albums like obviously for like 20 years after this album. But as far as this lineup, this album kind of sows the seeds of the inner band conflict between Roger Waters and Wright.
Yeah.
It starts here. So yeah.
I that it's not like I've ever had that much success, but I can't imagine what it would be like to be that successful and then have to go in and make another album. I'm sure that's kind of difficult. It's cool because obviously you have unlimited resources and stuff, but there's probably some issues that come with that. And then there's a lot more expectations on you as a musician. It's like once you release something, people want the same kind of thing, And I think that this album wasn't received as well when it first came out because of the success of Dark Side of the Moon. But in hindsight, later on looking at it, I think it's right up there with it. At the time, it's hard to say that, right? If you're a fan, if you're a fan of a band currently and they put out an album and it's different from what you heard before, but you're expecting that, it's easy to be disappointed,
Yeah, like if you look at some of these reviews, like Melody Maker said, from whichever direction one approaches Wish You Were Here, it still sounds unconvincing in its ponderous sincerity and displays a critical lack of imagination in all departments. That's a review from.
See, that's crazy to me. That feels like the opposite of how I feel about it.
I know. How do you arrive at that conclusion?
I don't know, because I don't know. It's just like maybe what that person was expecting, This album feels like the most heartfelt Pink Floyd album to me. Like, because they're talking about personal things, either dealing with Sid Barrett or also dealing with the record industry. Like, they're obviously just like, well, a couple of these songs, they're literally just angry when they write like the lyric.
Yeah, I mean, like Welcome to the Machine and Have a Cigar definitely have tinges of anger. Roger Waters also describes like a sense of absence, which you also get with Shine On You Crazy Diamond and Wish You Were Here. So there's just like this mix of like the void and anger.
Yeah.
And they play off of each other throughout the whole album, which makes it go together. And I don't know if you were aware of this, but so Dogs and Sheep from Animals, which was what album we were going to talk about. Yes. The Dogs and Sheep were actually going to be on this album.
I didn't know that.
As what were their names?
I don't remember.
Raving and Drooling was Sheep, and then You've Got to Be Crazy was Dogs. And David Gilmour was pushing to have those on this album, but Roger Waters felt like they didn't fit. And I definitely would agree. I feel like those would be kind of out of place on this album.
Yeah. So maybe that's why Animals isn't work quite as well for me because it's B-side Wish You Were Here material.
It's the B-side of Wish You Were Here. Not. That's man.
That's harsh. It's a good album too. That's harsh criticism.
I don't. Well, we were, maybe it's worth talking about, but we were going to go in and talk about Animals.
Yeah.
And after listening to it and then listening to Wish You Were Here, we preferred Wish You Were Here. Us personally. I mean, if this guy can review Wish You Were Here and say it sucks, then I feel like we can have our own subjective view and say that.
I've always preferred Wish You Were Here. I've always preferred Wish You Were Here. So,
yeah.
And we actually played. So Gerald and I played in a cover band. Well, it was that 10 years ago now? Jeez.
I know, that is so crazy.
But we did all kinds of
life crisis. Now it'd be like midlife crisis.
Yeah, almost. But we played all sorts of classic rock, and we did some Rush songs, and we played what Pink Floyd songs we played. We played Wish You Were Here.
Wish You Were Here and Time.
And Time, yeah. And we actually talked about playing Have a Cigar too. I think it's at one point.
I did. I covered Have a Cigar in another band.
So you've played 2/5 of this album live before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, 2 of the 5 songs, not 2/5, but
yeah. Well, that's how they were paid. I think maybe it's after Animals, but basically each musician would come with a song and they would be paid for what they wrote per song. So it's funny is like Dogs is, I don't know how long that song is.
It's like 15 minute song.
Yeah. And so you get paid the same as you get Pigs on the Wing, which is like, 2 separate songs that are each like 2 minutes long. And so Roger Waters got paid more, and that led to a lot of the anger and frustration.
So that's a terrible pay setup. If I was whoever wrote Dogs, was it Gilmore that wrote Dogs?
I think so, yeah.
If I was Gilmore, I would have split Dogs into like 5 parts or whatever.
Yeah, I know.
You paid for 5 songs. Dogs part 1, part 2.
Sound better as a suite, like we really break it up and revisit each phrase.
On that, what do you think about the splitting up of Shine On You Crazy Diamond between the beginning and end of the album?
I like it. I don't have an issue with it. I don't know if you have a musical insight.
No, I mean it's a pretty uncommon thing to do for a long song.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you see too often. I don't mind it. I think it works fine to kind of book in the album with both. But I've also heard Shine On You Crazy Diamond as one piece where they're both back to back. Mm-hmm. And that worked really well too. So I don't know. And I know there was some debate within the band whether they should do that or not.
Yeah, because the second one is mostly Wright. They're all obviously playing and they have their own parts, but isn't Wright really showcasing on the second one?
Yeah, I mean,
up the two.
Really, it's the same piece. Really, just splitting it up across the album. There's they bring back a lot of the musical themes and everything connects together pretty well.
Right.
But I do think, based on what the album is, that it makes sense to split it up, because I don't think you'd want to end the album with "Wish You Were Here." It makes sense to kind of go back into this. So
yeah,
I understand why they did it. It's an unusual thing. So I was curious what you thought.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, they do this before. They have these long pieces like this. Like I think of Echoes.
Yeah.
That song though is just at the end of the album. What album is Echoes on? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting.
I mean, typically in a prog sense, your sort of epic, the really long song, usually will come at the very end of the album, and that just ends the album all at once.
Yeah.
Although sometimes I've seen it at the beginning too. It's usually the end, but sometimes the beginning. Even in the middle, you could have your long song. But typically your epic, quote unquote, is all together, right? It's not going to split up.
Yeah. Do they do this before? Where they have kind of a reprise on albums? I know they do it on Animals. Echoes all comes. I know that Shine On You Crazy Diamond, like initially the idea was that it was sort of like it's similar in the vein of Echoes, where it's like this kind of long drawn out piece. They don't split up Echoes. I don't think they split anything else up.
No,
like that.
There are Dark Side of the Moon is kind of a concept album, so there are like themes and things that come back, but it's not like an entire song just gets like cut in half or something,
Yeah. Are you kind of thinking like it's like a not a shortcut, but they're what's the word I'm looking for? Like they're trying to save time, or they're like, let's just play this song again just to like.
No. Because the second half is the second part is very different from from the first part. So it's not that. And I as I said, I think it makes sense why they did it this way, and it works well. It almost makes the album feel like it's one kind of thing, to have it back and forth, even though it's definitely not a concept album. But
I don't know. As far as musically on the first one, I don't know. What are some things noticed?
There's all kinds of stuff. I'm actually going to grab my guitar because some of these chords are really cool. I think
I want to hear you play that signature lick so that we can get
copyright. If I play I can't even sing it. Probably I'll get copyright strike. Pink Floyd is notorious for copyright strikes. I will never teach. I will never do a Pink Floyd analysis teaching video on the Prog School because it'll get cut down. Goodness.
Well, play it so we can get canceled here. We're gonna get demonetized.
Well, like Rick Beato, you checked out some of Rick Beato's videos, right? The guy who does like the
yes. He complains about this frequently.
He has never talked about Pink Floyd because they would copyright strike him.
Oh, really?
Yep. So
that's kind of obnoxious.
But I can play I can play the chords at least, right, and not get in trouble.
I don't know. Let's find out.
I can't sing the words. They can't copyright chord progressions.
Yeah. Just play it fast.
Yeah.
And then
I'll do it in a different key. No, so that's the main motif from the song, and that is in the G Dorian mode. So Dorian is a minor scale with a major 6. Here's natural minor, and then Dorian. And Pink Floyd actually loves to use Dorian. We did in Part of Time. That's Dorian too. There's parts of Wish You Were Here.
That's what I was gonna say. Wish You Were Here. That's G Dorian.
E Dorian. Well, half of it. Some of it's like just straight E minor, but it's a pretty common Pink Floyd sound. And they're really just jamming. How long? I wrote it down. 2 minutes and 30 seconds. This song is literally just on one chord. It's just on a G minor. It's all that floaty, spacey stuff before this like melodic part comes in. We're also in 6/8 here, which gives it. I don't know. 6/8 is a great time signature. It kind of gives it that really like anthemic, kind of laid back feeling.
Yeah, and spacey.
Space, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Right. And then later that becomes like a 12/8. So if you kind of like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 in, so they're grouped as 2 notes each. So 1 and 2 and 3 and then later it goes into 12/8. So they're grouped as 3 instead of 2. So it'd be if I do the transition 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and so the 8th note is staying the same. You're just kind of then you're starting to feel it as like triplets, kind of, or 3 notes per beat. So that's when it jumps into like I think that's right when the sax solo kicks in. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have a minute on? What is the minute on that?
Oh, at 12 minutes.
At 12 minutes.
12 minutes. It's like in the middle of the sax solo or at the beginning. I can't remember exactly. I have to listen to it again.
Oh yeah, dun 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 dun.
Yeah, and it kind of does that in the second half too. It moves between the 12/8 triplet feel and the 6/8 feel too. So, and then there's some 4/4 at the end of the second half too, when it does at the very.
It's just so good to listen to. I remember one time, the first time I went fishing, which is really random. I was listening to Pink Floyd. And I remember just fishing and just really enjoying this, just being out in nature, and just really enjoying this.
This is probably my favorite Pink Floyd song. I just love the mood of it.
Yes.
And I love the way that it takes its time to get to stuff. The vocals don't come in for 8 minutes and 40 seconds. I had to write it down because I was like, that's ridiculous.
That's just so awesome.
It's great. Like that's like that's like 2 full songs before they get to the vocals.
I wanted to ask you about this. Like we covered King Crimson and Yes, and I don't really know how to word this, and maybe you can provide the words. But it seems like some of those prog bands are so upfront with their virtuoso-ness of the musicianship, and there's something like subdued about Pink Floyd where Mason is really straightforward on the drums, but he's adding just enough touch that you're like, oh wow, he's an amazing drummer. I feel like all of them in their restrictiveness, that's what makes them great. Like they're not showing off but by not showing off, they're showing off.
I think
does that make sense?
This is something we'll probably talk a lot about as we go through all kinds of different albums, is that there is really kind of two sides to prog. There's the technical side, the over the top, like show off how crazy good you are and how complex you can be side of prog. But there's this side of prog, which is more based on, well, I mean, good songwriting, but also just experimentation, like experimentation in the sounds that they're using, the different instruments, arrangements, lengths of songs, styles, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it's less about like, here's what we can all do as members, but it's more about like, what kind of sonic territory can we explore, you know?
Yes.
And you're going to see kind of both of those, you know, if and that stuff continues on later if you think of the difference between like a band like Dream Theater and Porcupine Tree or something like that.
Well, even Yes, like we covered Yes. I mean, Yes definitely shows off.
Oh, yeah.
I would say. And there's less showing off in Pink Floyd.
Oh, for sure. That's not a thing that Pink Floyd does, because that's not the kind of players they are even really. Right. Maybe you think about just David Gilmour's guitar solos, which are super iconic. But they're all just really blues. It's essentially just blues. Yeah. You know, it's that kind of stuff, but it's done over these like long, you know, drawn out passages like this, so it doesn't really sound like he's playing the blues. But
right. Yeah, I think that also makes Pink Floyd more accessible.
Oh,
I grew up, my dad he doesn't know anything about music, but he listened to Pink Floyd all the time. So I grew up listening to Pink Floyd. I did not grow up listening to Yes or King Crimson as much. I'm sure other people have that experience, but it's just like anybody, my students, I teach at a high school, my students know these songs.
Well, everyone who knows who Pink Floyd is,
they're less likely to know Yes, definitely less likely to know King Crimson.
Oh, yeah. Or even Genesis or some of the other like big prog bands, you know.
Yeah, no, Pink Floyd, I mean,
they're by far probably the highest selling, they have to be the highest selling prog, quote unquote, prog band ever, progressive rock band.
Yeah, unless you throw like some of the Beatles albums, but I don't.
Yeah,
really
I wouldn't count them as like. But I mean, so it's kind of it's that side, it's this side of prog, which I love. You know, I love technical stuff as much as anybody. But I think especially for myself as I've gotten older, even though it's like the music I write is still very much more on the technical side. But as far as listening and enjoyment for myself, I find myself gravitating towards this kind of prog a lot more than I would have when I was younger. I think there's a maturity with this stuff that sometimes isn't happening if you're focused solely on technical stuff. So,
well, there's also, I mean, just lyrically, this song carries so much weight. I don't know if I've told you this before, but I had a friend who, well, maybe I'll tell the Syd Barrett story. I mean, effectively, Syd Barrett was their lead singer, and it's kind of confusing exactly what happened. He was disaffected with the record industry, and it seemed like he didn't want to go forward being this, like, you know, this popular rock band, but simultaneously he was taking a lot of LSD and went insane. Like he was hanging out with these people, and he apparently just had taken too much, and the band saw him, and they just kind of saw an absence in his eyes and realized that he just was not there anymore. So Roger Waters wrote this song as a tribute to him, because without him, Roger Waters said himself that the band would have never gotten started, even though he was only there for a couple of albums. He was not there during their most popular albums. So he wrote this song for him. And there's some just, I mean, amazing. I mean, this is maybe one of my favorite songs lyrically. Just now there's a look in your eyes, like black holes in the sky. You were caught in the crossfire of childhood and stardom. I mean, all these lyrics are, you reached for the secret too soon and you cried for the moon.
I love that line. It's so good.
Oh, it's so good. And so what's really crazy is they were recording this song. They had gotten done with the final take, and this guy walks in, and they have no idea who he is. He has his shirt half tucked. And do you have that image actually that I sent you? Maybe you could pull it up.
Yeah. I'm going to have to put this in.
You can even just look up Syd Barrett comes in during Wish You Were Here. But anyway, this guy shows up. He has his shirt half tucked. He's carrying a plastic bag. His head is completely shaved, and his eyebrows are shaved off. And he's walking around their equipment, and they're like, who the heck is this guy? They thought he was like from the record company or from the EMI staff, actually. And they thought he was like a friend of Waters. Nobody knew who he was. And then Gilmour realized who he was. and he did you find that image?
I've got it. Give me a second. I'm gonna.
Okay, yeah, cue it up. But Gilmore recognized who he was, and he leans over to like Mason, the drummer, and he's like, that's Sid Barrett, right? And the description, there's the image.
It's right now. It's you now. That's it.
Now it's me. That's a picture of me. No. No, but that is Sid Barrett. And if you look at the pictures of him before too, I mean, he's a great frontman. He's like Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
He's a sex icon kind of thing. And then he becomes this. And so he's in there after they finish the recording of Shine On You Crazy Diamond. Basically Mason, when he sees him and realizes who he is, he's completely horrified is how he's described. They try to have a conversation with him, and it's described as desultory and not entirely sensible by that's what Mason says, which basically just means there's no purpose. Barrett's asking, he's like, so you guys want me to record this or whatever? And then they try to play the song Shine On You Crazy Diamond to him
and
to
he
see if he recognizes.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even know that it is about him.
That's crazy.
And they literally, it says Storm Thorgerson, who was one of the producers there. He says 2 or 3 people cried, and they sat around and talked to him for a bit, but he really wasn't there. And that is just so heartbreaking to me personally, because I had a friend who ended up taking LSD, and the same exact thing happened. I mean, it was like, there's my friend there the day before. He took LSD, went completely insane one night, and the next day he was not in his body. It was different. He was absent.
That story and just knowing the kind of concept behind this song, everyone knows someone who's gone a little bit crazy or who just has let themselves go or whatever. It's like, if you listen to the song and read the lyrics with that in mind, this is like a powerful song.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's tragic. It's extremely powerful.
There's some of these parts they like, every time I hear them, it's just like, they really move me. And all those lyrics that we were talking about, they're just amazing. I don't know.
Yeah.
You say anything about them. I'm just kind of looking through all of them now.
Yeah, you stranger, you legend, you martyr. Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Is, oh man, you wore out. The idea that wore out you're welcome with random precision is about, initially they were trying to get Sid Barrett to participate with the band before Wish You Were Here, way before Wish You Were Here. But he would like show up and not even play with them, or they would do a live show on TV and he would just stare blankly at the screen and not even play his guitar. So drugs really had a negative impact on him. I think he died in 2006.
Yeah,
he died like in the early 2000s.
That's surprising he lived that long.
I know, and the band only saw him one time. Crazy. I think Nick Mason saw him, and he was picking up some snacks. Is what Nick Mason said. That's the last time that they saw him.
Crazy.
So they didn't even try to interact with him. I don't know.
Yeah, and these kind of lyrics it's the kind of lyrics that I love. Like there's imagery and it's not super on the nose, right? Like anytime I hear lyrics that are like tell you exactly what's going on, like in really blank terms, like I just don't like that much.
Or like modern lyrics where they talk about texting or Instagramming.
Well, that's the worst. I mean, that's a whole nother sort of thing. But you know what I mean? It's like you can talk about like certain things, but if you do it it's like poetry like this. It feels, it's like good word choices and the things like you can understand what they're saying, but it's not done in a super overt way. It's not like you've gone crazy. You know what I mean? It's like,
we miss you, Sid Barrett.
We miss you, Sid Barrett. Come back or whatever.
Wish you were here.
You wish you were. Well, yeah.
Yeah. And Roger Waters says that he's like, a lot of these songs mean this to me. This is what I was going through.
Yeah.
But he sort of writes it like a Rorschach test where anybody can approach it and it can mean something entirely different for them. And I mean, all the Time is like that for me.
That's much.
Wish You Were Here, Shiny Crazy Diamond.
That has a lot more impact, and I think a much broader appeal because you can put your own experiences into it, as opposed to like I've never been a big fan of anytime bands use actual names of anything. Like like have a song that's named this person or whatever. It happens all the time, and there's no you can't put yourself in that at all. Whereas something like this, you can.
Jenny.
Yeah.
63753
or whatever. I mean, there's a million examples. Rhiannon by Fleetwood Mac, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's better for me anyway if I feel like I can maybe put my own experiences into the music. So
this is for me. This is the top of the heap as far as lyrical.
This is top. Yeah, this is top tier lyric writing, and I'm not even someone who, I'm a music. I'm not really a lyricist, and I don't always listen to the lyrics as much as I do to the music. But this, and especially this kind of music where it's much more laid back, the lyrics do matter a ton.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's
I could talk about this song forever. Actually, I want to talk about. Let me see. I wrote down some of these chord progressions because they're so cool. Yeah, just the chorus part. I don't know if I can hum the melody. So essentially, you just have like a chromatic. The bass line goes down from G.
Yeah.
To E flat and then back up. I love chromatic moving stuff like that, but it actually fits really well there with the lyrics that are happening too.
Yeah,
you feel like you're it feels like you're falling, and then you like get lifted back up to the shine part, right? It's kind of imagery in the chords. Yeah, you can use musical things to like enhance the imagery of lyrics too. It's called
and David Gilmour actually, he I can't find the quote exactly, but I remember reading he was talking about Dark Side of the Moon, where he felt like some of the ideas that were attached to the music were bigger than the music itself.
Yeah. And
he made it his own personal goal to make sure that the music matched the weight of the ideas. Okay. I think I'm paraphrasing there, but that definitely comes through. And that's a great example of what he's talking about there.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember some of the other guitar parts. I learned these a few days ago because I was just wanting to. I had never really done it properly.
Right.
I really like the sax solo on this song, which is a weird thing for me to say because I am usually not a fan of sax solos, especially in rock. But there's just something about the way that this sax solo works. I guess they do it in Money too, which is great. But it just works here. It's great. It's awesome.
And that's like that comes later in the song as well, right?
Yeah, that's like after the first. Oh, we're gonna we got 10 minutes left, right? Just
Seriously?
Zoom, yeah.
Gosh, just on 40.
Zoom. It's okay. We'll in another 5 or 10 minutes we can jump. Let's finish up Shining Crazy Diamond.
Yeah, there's also, I guess the last thing on Shining Crazy Diamond is also the backing vocals, which they use in Dark Side of the Moon as well. Yeah. I can't remember the name of the musicians. They're American, African-American musicians. I cannot remember their name, but that adds a ton to that chorus. Just that shine on. It really hits it with those harmonies. And that's great.
I really like the very end. Since we're kind of talking about Shining Crazy Diamond as one thing, the first and second part. The very end, there's like this, it's like a dirge is what I call it. It's the dirge section, like a march.
Right.
Like
of the second part?
Of the very end, of the second part at the end of the album.
Okay.
It feels like a funeral march sort of thing to me.
Right. With those keys, with the pad.
Yeah, and like the triplet, kind of like slower, like triplet sort of feel. And then the chords there are like super dark.
Ooh, yeah.
They're like going outside of it's minor, but they're it's just a bunch of minor chords like back to back. It's really cool.
Right. And also we weren't able to figure this out because I just read about this just now, but apparently after Syd Barrett comes into the room, Wright goes back in and he does this reprise of the See Emily Play, which was one of Syd Barrett's songs, into the end of Shine On You Crazy Diamond. But I'm not exactly sure which melody it is.
Yeah, I'd have to listen. I didn't even know that.
We didn't have time to figure it out.
One more thing, the very end of the song, which is the end of the album, it does. This is one of my favorite musical terms, the Picardy third. So
the old Picardy third.
If you're in a minor key, what that means is if you're playing in a minor key, you end the song on that same chord but major instead of minor. So the ending of the song goes to a major chord.
That's nice. That's
so
nice.
instead of G minor where it started, it ends on G major. And I think that's interesting. There is some musical sort of I think there's some there's a reason behind that. I think it gives a little bit of hope like to the end of the album to like have it lift to the major chord. So that's called the Picardy third.
No, it definitely does. That's a great tool. Yeah, Shiny Crazy Diamond. Very tragic. Can we move that picture?
Yeah, I took it away.
Okay, thank you.
I was thinking
there is another image.
I'm just gonna leave that up the whole time.
Oh, goodness.
I'm putting it in like 4 different spots on the screen.
Well, you know, the theme about this album is absence, and you can literally see it in that guy's eyes, man. It is terrifying. But we're on Welcome to the Machine. Is that right?
Yes, that is
That's track 2. Welcome to the Machine is, you know, there, like I said, there's this theme of absence, and there's a theme of sort of cynicism and bitterness towards the record industry. Then also a mix of both. Like Syd Barrett is almost kind of a victim of the record industry. Roger Waters was talking about how the pressure of the record industry sort of pushed him the way it did, and possibly could have played a role in making him go, you know, crazy.
Yeah.
So then we get to Welcome to the Machine. We open up with these great 1970s sound effects. They were way into experimental
all
audio
the
there.
Electronic elements in this song are fantastic, and
Really
Pink
are,
Floyd was really good at doing that. Like, if you listen to electronic instruments from this time period done by a lot of bands and stuff, it can be pretty cheesy, pretty rough for some of it. I know my wife, she found this $1 vinyl at the Goodwill recently because she just picks them up because she thinks they're funny. And it was I can't even remember the name of it exactly, but it was like The Age of Electronium or something like that. And it was like all these pop songs done on synthesizers from like the 70s, like about the same time as this. Oh, it was like the worst thing ever. It sounds so bad.
I know. And yeah.
But Pink Floyd
it is really well done. And you know what's weird is like it opens with an elevator. And the weird part is an elevator doesn't sound like the beginning of this track. But you know it's an elevator, or at least some kind of, you're moving into some kind of machine.
It's good sort of sound design to turn it into something else. And they used, I looked it up because I was curious, they used the VCS3 synth a bunch on this song, which is kind of a newer, at the time it was a newer sort of synth model. So that's doing a lot
and Roger
of
Waters apparently still uses that.
Oh, probably. I mean, there's certain things you can't really replicate. I mean, there's digital stuff to replicate almost anything now, but you know, if you're used to using the original sort of keyboard or whatever.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think is cool about this sound-wise is this mixture of these synthetic, like electronic instruments with acoustic guitar. Like you get the like sort of organic elements against the electronic elements. I don't know if there's any sort of lyrical sort of connection with that either, but I just like that contrast between the two.
Yeah.
There's also no drums in this song. None.
Is there? That's true. Is there a weird like time signature or anything like that in it? Though?
There's it moves to 3/4. Really it moves to 3/4 in the bridge instead of 4/4. Pink Floyd doesn't really do the like style time signatures, right?
Right.
Occasionally,
they have the most popular
song in
time signature song ever.
That's true. Money's in 7/4, but the guitar solo in that song's in 4/4 because David Gilmour couldn't solo in 7/4.
That's he couldn't solo.
Well, he couldn't. That's the rumor anyway. Is like he didn't want to solo in 7/4. So if you listen to,
he's such a great guitar.
If you listen to Money, it goes to 4/4 when the guitar solo kicks in. Like the sax solo's in 7. That's what I heard anyway. That might be a rumor. But Pink Floyd will like in the bridge of this song it moves to 3/4 and then back to 4/4, which they're both common time signatures, but there is some switching of the meters at least. And there was like that change to the triplet feel and Shine On You Crazy Diamond. So it's not like they're not using different time signatures. It's just like they're not changing time signatures every measure like some bands would.
Right. And I mentioned this to you, and I don't think you got a chance to watch it, but the music videos for the songs on this album are great. And the Welcome to the Machine, it's all done by Gerald Scarf, which is an amazing name, Gerald.
Related to you?
Scarf.
Oh, wait, no, you share the first name.
Yeah, you can't be related by the first name, but he does he does a lot of the artwork for The Wall, but he does basically these animations. And I can't remember what the animal's called. I think it's an axolotl. Is that what it's called? I only know the Pokemon that is associated with it, but it's this weird mechanical axolotl that's like walking along, and then he has these like monoliths rising out of seas of blood and it turns into hands. It's really great, like 70s just crazy psychedelic imagery. So I definitely recommend looking that up on YouTube.
Yeah, this song is I love the atmosphere of this song. Like just the way all the sounds like flow and it definitely feels pretty dark and cynical, which I know
is the idea of the acoustic guitar is like the acoustic guitar represents something pure and organic, and it's like being smothered by the industrial
right. It's
sounds. True. And that's very much as they had entered the machine.
Yeah.
They were now like trying to write music, but they're just being smothered by this. You have to follow it up with something bigger, and you have to do something, more. Yeah.
That's a good point. That makes sense. I was trying to think of like, what does that even mean? But that makes sense. Like, because the acoustic guitar is very much kind of like in the background there, and these other instruments are just like, like on top of it, just all over
just
it.
Killing. Yeah.
And like those synthetics, like some of the electronic elements that come in or sweep in, they're super loud, like in the mix. They're just like, like they
like abrupt and jarring.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. If you think of the electronic stuff as being like the record industry and the machine or whatever, as opposed to like.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think like, I'm rereading the lyrics here.
I have them up here.
Provided with toys and scouting for boys, you bought a guitar to punish your ma. It's this idea of like you picked up the guitar to like try to make it, and now you finally made it.
And you're nobody's fool. Once again, these lyrics are so good.
Oh man, they're.
And I think
love what did you dream? This is my favorite line in this whole song is what did you dream? It's all right.
We told you what to dream. Oh man.
The idea is you have this somebody wants to be a rock star, right? And then they finally make it. And then they realize, oh, it was all a trick, like put on to me. They told me what to dream. They gave me that dream.
They wanted
my own.
Yeah, they wanted you to be a rock star or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that could apply to like outside of music too. You think about it like so many things. There's like cultures like you need to have this and you need to have this. This is what your dream is, to like own a house, to have whatever it might be.
You got to go to college to get a good job. You gotta get a job, and then you got to get married. Blah, blah, blah.
You might have kids, like the American dream or whatever, or just anything. Yeah. And it's like they're just telling you what to dream, right?
Yeah, and that's why Roger Waters, he's just an interesting guy. His anti-status quo lyrics.
I also love the way that they say Jaguar in this one. The Jaguar.
It's very British.
Yeah. Always ate in a
Yeah.
steak bar. Love to drive his Jaguar.
Yeah, like that's all about the American dream and the money and all that stuff.
Yeah, and then once again, these lyrics, like these I feel like I could even put myself into these in some way, even it's like I've gotten. But I've dealt with some of them.
I'm a public school teacher.
Yes.
I very much resonate with this.
Well, I've dealt, a little bit with the music like world, and what people want you to do and blah blah blah, and like here's what you got to do to make it and all this stuff, and it's like it feels so forced, and it's awesome though. They're releasing this song on a major label, this huge band, and they're just like, screw you guys, pretty much.
Yeah, screw you guys.
Screw you guys.
And then it ends just with like wind, right? Or there's like talking at the end, isn't there? There's like a crowd, and then it just kind of ends with wind. Or actually, no, I'm thinking of Shining Crazy Diamond at the beginning. Never mind.
Yeah, there's also like the kind of talking stuff between Have a Cigar and Wish You Were Here, like all that stuff too. But
right, yeah, there's just like an audience or a crowd of some kind.
And then Have a Cigar to me feels like, because the lyrical content is of a similar vein, it almost feels like the Welcome Machine and Have a Cigar are like two parts of the same sort of thing. Like they almost like work together really well, because it kind of just flows right into Have a Cigar.
Oh yeah, I mean they're dealing with the same the cynicism.
They're both in the same
industry.
key. They're both in E minor. So and actually, Wish You Were Here is in G mostly, but E minor, G, similar thing. So
Have a Cigar was actually covered by Primus on their album Miscellaneous Debris. He's heavily influenced by Roger Waters. He's the lead singer, plays bass, that whole thing. And so that was the first song by Pink Floyd that I'd heard when I was in high school that wasn't like one of their main. Well, I guess it is popular. I mean, the song was a huge international hit, but I guess you don't hear it on the radio as much as say you would hear, Money or something like that, I guess, or Another Brick in the Wall. Yeah.
It's not one, I can't remember, or even Welcome to the Machine. I'm trying to think of when I did listen to the radio back in the day in the car or whatever, which ones I'd hear. I feel like I heard Welcome to the Machine or Wish You Were Here, like
on the radio.
Yeah.
Really?
Even not that long ago, I was...
Is that Alaskan radio?
Yeah, it was cool Alaskan radio. I was walking around a store somewhere recently, the last couple of months, I'd heard Welcome to the Machine. I was like, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
But
that's crazy. Like you're walking around Walmart listening to Welcome to the
Well,
Machine.
that wasn't Walmart, but yeah.
I mean, that would just suit it really well. Like they should just play Welcome to the Machine all the time.
Just on loop. Yeah. That song should just come on your computer when you go to Amazon. Like you type in Amazon, it's like welcome.
Yeah, seriously. Or if you're on Facebook or
anything. Anytime you go on
any big corporation.
Yeah.
But Have a Cigar. The lyrics are hilarious. They're just hilarious, cynical. I didn't know this until I looked into this, but it's not even sang by Roger Waters. I think he does the backing vocals.
They had a guest vocalist come in because none of them could
Roy Harper.
Yeah, because none of them could get the sound they wanted, which is cool though.
Roger Waters actually does not like the vocals on this.
Oh, really?
He
I
says
like
if he had gotten more time with it, he would have gotten it. He doesn't like how Roy Harper makes kind of a parody of the song, but that's why I like it.
I think it's great. I
love it because he's the character of like the person trying to sign the band, and
I think it adds to the cynicism of it, honestly.
Oh, it's great.
I love the lyrics.
Yelling. Yeah. There's a documentary on YouTube about this album, and they isolate the vocals, and they're so ridiculous. When you hear them all with the harmony and such on Have a Cigar, it sounds great, but when you have them isolated, you're like, gosh, he's just really just made this character up. And
isolated vocals are usually don't sound very good especially in rock music. Like if you ever listen to any isolated vocals, be like, this doesn't sound very good, but it needs the context of the bands.
Seriously, in this case, it's definitely the case with this song. But
I think it's cool though. That's one of those things where even if it wasn't the way he wanted it to turn out, I think it had a positive effect on the final product. So
I mean, you just feel it's such a sleazy.
You're never gonna die. You're gonna make it if you try. They're gonna love
but
you.
just talking about the marriage of the lyrics to the actual music, you just feel the funk just gives you this groove, but it's very sleazy groove, and you're sitting in the office of this guy who's just talking you up, and you know the whole thing is fake. And just the best lyrics are you're on it there.
That's the best by far. Which one's Pink?
That is so
it's
funny. When I was a kid, I thought Pink Floyd was a person.
Yeah.
Too,
No, it's perfect. Like I'm sure they probably got that a million times. Which one of you is Pink? Which one of you is Floyd? So they're just like, that's exactly what some sort of record executive that knows nothing about the band, just wants some money, would say. Which one of you guys is Pink? It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. And it could be made into a monster if we all pull together as a team. And then just the I guess the chorus,
riding the gravy train. That's awesome.
We're riding the gravy train, and that's what's cool is that part breaks through into this very sentimental, like sad part. And so that's what this album is so good about, juxtaposing those two things together, and it just does it so well.
It's so good. I love the gravy train line. It's just good. It's good. It's great imagery.
Yeah. I don't know if there's much. I mean, I loved covering this song because the bass line is
the groove is great, and Pink Floyd does kind of like go into this funky vibe every once in a while, like kind of grooving thing. You think about like Another Brick in the Wall is another good example of that, but it's great. And this the music of this is a good like juxtaposition to Welcome to the Machine or Wish You Were Here or anything else really on the album, because the rest of the album feels much more sort of maybe grandiose in spots, but also just kind of more subdued in a lot of ways. And this is where you kind of get more of the, you get just more of a groove going on. So and then you got the classic you got a classic super long David Gilmour solo, really bluesy. It's great. He's
just got such a signature sound. I'm kind of taken aback that he can't. You were saying he can't jam in 7/4.
Well, it's not that easy to solo in odd time signatures. It's coming from someone who does it all the time.
But he's so good, man. But
it's like player. People are good at certain things, right? It's not like everyone's good at every. Just because you're good doesn't mean you're good at something else. Like I'm good at certain things, but there's other things I'm not good at all. So that's just the nature of anything. But I love when we played. Especially we played Time. I loved covering that solo. It was maybe my favorite one to cover.
Yeah,
it's just something about it. Like
song,
you hold.
I we had the samples at the beginning of the clocks and stuff like that.
That was one of my favorite songs to cover. I love that song. But it's just so fun to like hold those long notes and you bend, and it's like the perfect note is always in the perfect spot,
Yeah.
And I mean, my solos are always like have some sort of shreddiness in it just because that's how I play. But there is an influence from this kind of stuff where I'm attempting, at least in my best way, to try to find the right note for the right spot,
Yeah.
And even if that happens to be a lot more notes than David Gilmour would use, I mean, I think any guitarist could learn something from learning these solos. Of how to, mostly even just how to construct a solo. Like, how do you build it? How do you take it from one spot to the next? And anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and what's the gentleman that does the album art on Wish You Were Here? Because I mean, this song really summarizes the album art. Artist Wish You Were Here. I mean, so basically on this album art, you have a guy on the front who's burning.
Yeah,
and he's.
I mean, I've got it
hands.
up here.
So he's literally getting burned. And that's so what this song is all about.
And they're in like it looks like they're in one of those like old studio sort of like sets, right, that they'd have in Hollywood or something with all the different sets.
Yep, and that was where that was taken.
Yeah.
It's Storm Thorgerson, who is also, I said he was a producer accidentally earlier, but he was the album artist. And so, yeah, they just told him, they're like, hey, we just feel like an absence. And that was really what they brought to this album. They all felt like they weren't motivated, and people were picking up on that, and that there was just an absence, not just of Syd Barrett being absent, but also of like the band itself being absent and just not motivated.
Yeah.
And this really picks up with Animals. You have like everybody's getting married and everybody's sidetracked, and that's when Roger Waters really just kind of
takes over. Yeah,
and he just takes over. He does in this actually as well. But
I think that's why I like this a little more than like The Wall, because I enjoy The Wall, but this feels like it has more of the other band members' input in it. I know Roger Waters is still kind of maybe the main guy, but The Wall is like all Waters,
Yes.
And this feels like you have a little more influence from the other members, which is good.
Yep, I agree.
It's kind of like the happy medium before it went more the other way. But
I think from the documentary, it seems like Nick Mason was kind of the one who, I think he was going through like a divorce during this album.
Yeah.
And so he's less present. But yeah, it's a good mix.
I do wonder if that's
of all of them makes it good.
I do wonder if that's why there's no drums in Welcome to the Machine, and there's less drums on Wish You Were Here. Like, there were parts of the songs where the drums are just not there that much. I'm wondering if like part of it was, well, he's just not in a place to do this, so let's just go without drums,
Yeah, let's just get some machine sound effects. And
although I think it works well in Welcome to the Machine, so that might not have been a consideration. But you never know. It's like sometimes that happens. You're thinking, oh, maybe just have to.
Well, I do know, like, even the reason "Shine on You, Crazy Diamond" has that guitar lick is because David Gilmour is just messing around.
Yeah.
And Roger Waters listens, like, wait a minute, play that again, and then they like make a whole song off of it.
Yeah.
And the same goes for "Wish You Were Here." David Gilmour was just strumming along, and Roger Waters listened, and so you really get this this meeting of these two great musicians, and they balance each other out. David Gilmour kind of takes the rough edges of Waters and really sands them down and makes it more palatable, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting what you're saying about them like having a hard time writing it because of Syd Barrett, and also because of all the stuff they're dealing with, with their record industry and whatever. And it seems like what they did was they're like, well, these things are what's kind of making it hard for us to write, then let's just write about those.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So like,
and that's "Wish You Were Here" is that song.
They're like, we're dealing with this Syd Barrett stuff and stuff. It's like, let's just write about it. Right? Like, maybe that will help, give us some inspiration. So.
Yeah, and also how they felt burned by the record industry after Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah, for sure.
This does feel like a very personal album, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's my favorite Pink Floyd album. It's like, it's not. The Wall is maybe a little more on the grandiose kind of concept side, but
we can probably talk about that some other time.
Well, I'm sure we will.
It's a very complex album.
We will definitely do another Pink Floyd at some point because it's an important band, but.
We'll cover Piper at the Gates of Dawn, their first album.
Yeah. Actually, an early Pink Floyd album would be interesting because they're very different, super psychedelic.
Well, have you? So I actually used to listen to that in high school.
Oh yeah,
a lot.
I've listened to them. Like, it's been a while since I've listened to those, but
yeah. Well, the Gnome, great class. Anyway, so we have. I mean, the last one we can talk about here is "Wish You Were Here." This is definitely one of the most popular Pink Floyd songs. Most of my students know it. When we have this thing called Arts Fest at the school. And like, if they're not covering an Arctic Monkeys song, they're usually covering Wish You Were Here, because it's easy to learn on the guitar.
One of the first songs that people learn on the guitar.
Yeah. But gosh, just talk about lyrics again, man. These lyrics actually, oh man, between this and Shiny Crazy Diamond, I'm not sure which lyrics are best. They're all so good on this album.
I'm going to listen to this album after this and read the lyrics at the same time, because I actually haven't done that. Like, I know a lot of the lyrics, but
it's just like can you tell
a green
the
field,
whole thing, man?
A smile from a veil. Yeah.
The walk on part in the war for the lead role in the cage. That also speaks to that whole idea of, Roger Waters said himself, he said he wants to be the walk on part in the war. He doesn't want to be the lead role in the cage. He doesn't want to be, just pumping out commercial hit after commercial hit, which they could totally do, but they want to take the higher road and be the walk on part in the war. This song, it really, definitely one of the most more emotional songs I listen to. I get a little,
I think,
but pretty close.
And the simplicity in the music here really helps that, especially helps these lyrics pop out, right?
Is there any weird, it is a very straightforward song, but is there anything?
Well, the acoustic guitar at the beginning was recorded in his car, I want to say, like on a car, from a car stereo or something. Like, that's why it's so lo-fi, like the original sort of strumming guitar. I looked it up. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's something like that. So that's kind of cool. And then there's that kind of acoustic solo at the beginning, which is actually really fun to play. Some cool little acoustic licks in there. The chords are, the chords are all just kind of like really in G major, except for that one spot I talked about earlier that goes to like Dorian a little bit. Throws in one chord from outside the key, so it's nothing too crazy. It's really straightforward. It's got all your basic open guitar chords. If you've never played guitar before, this is a good one to start with. C, G, totally. D.
I can even play this song on
A minor, A7. It's like it covers almost all of your basic chords that I would teach a beginner in the first couple lessons, sort of a thing.
Right.
But it's great.
It does say there's a jazz violinist who contributed to the song.
The violins happen in a few spots, but they ended up not liking them, Pink Floyd, so they turned them so far down in the mix. They're actually in the mix, but they're so far down you can't even hear them.
I know. Actually, right now I'm like, wait, there's violins in this song?
Yeah, exactly. I was looking up kind of some of the production of this, and that was one of the things they said is like they brought in this jazz violinist to play, and they ended up not liking it on the end of the song, but they paid him and put it so far down in the mix you can't hear it. So, I wonder if there's it'd be cool if there was a recording out there that existed that had it in there, but
yeah, that would be cool. Well, that's the thing. The documentary that I watched on this album, they have the original producer like goes back into the studio and he's like messing with the mixes. I was like, gosh, that'd be so cool to just sit in front of the mix of this album and just do a remix. We didn't talk about that, but Yes has their remix album. Have you listened to that?
No, I haven't actually.
They're classic songs and they remix all of them into these ridiculous.
Oh, you're talking like they actually like change up the songs.
Yeah,
I was thinking
made by Yes.
Oh, okay.
No, like they'll take.
Well, there's two different ways you can think about,
and it's remix like hip hop. It's really
there's two ways you can think about remixing. The other way is like a mixing engineer literally just remixes the same song.
Right, like remastered and
remastered and actually.
I'm talking about a literal
like an
remix
actual like
that Yes was like. Yes, we do want our old songs remixed in hip hop.
Did you find a way to like slam on 80s Yes again? We're not even talking about Yes.
It's not even 80s yet. Well, it was like early 2000s.
Oh, okay.
Went back and ruined their previous like 70s good songs.
Joe's gonna find a way to just slam on 80s Yes in every podcast somehow.
I would love to keep that as just a theme.
We're just gonna slam on 80s everything. Anytime we talk
80s, about the 80s get they get trashed on sometimes, but man, there's a lot of good music coming out of the 80s, honestly.
But
of a lot of different
I'm thinking the next I'm not going to spoil album we're going to talk about next, but I think we're going to slam on the 80s in that one too.
Yeah, my wife's back there.
Yeah,
hi, Kate. Well,
there's not too much else to talk about.
I think we got it. This is an amazing album. It's really sad what happened to Syd Barrett. It's sad for anybody who goes through something like that, where they kind of lose their mind. And I can't imagine the terrible things that they have to deal with. And it's really sad. But this album it's just like I said, pound for pound, just one of my favorite Pink Floyd albums.
This is one of my go-to albums when we're on road trips with the family. I don't know why. Caitlin loves Pink Floyd too, so we'll just.
Who wouldn't like this album? I mean, I don't know.
So, like, if I'm just like going on a nice
sunset or something,
especially if you're driving through if you're driving through Eastern Washington or something where it's open, there's nothing for miles. It's a great album just to turn on, and it's just yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. I could probably listen to this every day and be fine for at least for a while.
Yeah, seriously.
It just kind of puts you in a mood. It's good.
Yeah. So the next episode, we're going to be talking about Rush, which I'm also really excited about. Yeah. I'm excited that we're getting into this period of time Rush. For prog rock. And we're going to be talking about Hemispheres.
Yes.
Which is the most proggiest of all their proggy.
The most extreme albums. Rush. No.
It really is, though.
It is, yeah. Like the most experimental
albums.
I actually, for any of you who are following this, I'm sure you follow my channel too, but I did some analysis on Rush a few months back in January, about odd time signatures in Rush, and I think I actually covered 2 songs from Hemispheres. Yep, I did. And there are at least parts of 2 songs of that. So if you want to check out some of the rhythms, you can go look at that. But I'm obviously a big Rush fan, and Gerald is too, so it's going to be fun to talk about Rush.
Yes. It is going to be fun.
Yes. King Crimson, Genesis.
Yep. A good mix.
Right.
So
cool.
Where can people find you at, Morgan? They can find you on your YouTube channel on
the Prog School. Yeah, the Prog School YouTube channel, which is I'll have the video from these podcasts are up on there too.
Yeah, that's true.
And
but
then
if you're listening to the podcast, you can find it on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. You can find it. You can look at our ugly mugs on YouTube if you want.
Yeah.
And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. I think on Instagram it's still just Morgan Wick Music, but on Facebook it's the Prog School. But most of the stuff I'm doing is all geared towards YouTube. So if you want to really get like the full experience of what I'm doing, check me out there. Also, all the music that I'm writing and releasing for the Prog School, I'm doing 1 song a month. Those are all on all your major streaming services. So if you have Spotify or Apple Music, you can find all that too.
Yep, and you can find me at Moscow High School. I teach about 130 students a year.
Wait, you're in Russia?
You can try to enroll and get in there. Moscow, Russia, yes.
Moscow, Idaho.
Moscow,
Idaho.
Idaho, not Moscow.
Moscow, Russia. Moscow, Idaho.
Yes.
Cool. All right.
Well, anyway, thank you for listening. It has been great having you here with us, and I hope you have a great day.
You as well.
This is us signing out.
Yeah. Stay proggy.